What's up, guys? So this is an old S100 computer I bought on eBay a long time ago. It's been sitting in the room waiting to get going. It was listed as being sold by a company called International Systems Corporation, which I can find nothing on the internet. So if anybody knows anything about this, it'd be cool to hear about it. It's real dirty, like everything. The case itself doesn't have any branding on it, but some of the cards in here do say International Systems Corporation on it, and then there's some other cards in it. So we'll take a look at all that. I'll pull these cards out and kind of show them all to you individually, but I want to go ahead and start putting some power on this thing. We'll look inside of it, but it looks pretty much like any old S100 bus computer, like a Altair and MSI, and it has a giant, capacitors in it that haven't probably been powered in a long time. So I'm going to do the same thing I did on the decorator and just power it up with the variac really slow over a long period, and hopefully that'll get our caps going. And so I'm going to work on that, and then we'll take a look at this thing. Here's the enclosure with the cards out of it. So on the front, there's a power switch, which I can see is wired to these wires here. So I think that'll need to be on for me to put voltage on the caps. And then this is like a toggle switch. It goes up and down. Not sure what that's for. And yeah, here's a big old transformer and 3 capacitors, similar to pretty much how all these S100 computers work. This thing had some coffee or something spilled on it. It's pretty nasty. It's all down in it. So after I get it brought up to voltage, assuming the capacitors are good, I have to clean it up. But there's some LEDs on the board, some relays. So as we get the voltage up, and there's a fan. So as we get the voltage up, things should start doing something. And then try putting the cards in one by one. It's a little hard to trace these wires, but the power switch actually cuts on that relay right there, which powers everything. So without that relay on, I can't actually do my slow voltage bring up process. And if I just kept turning it, eventually that relay would just cut on and power everything to full power, which isn't what I want. So I put some little jumper wires across it, and it's now charging the capacitors. Okay, so everything's starting to charge. So my process for this is pretty simple. Turn the variac up about 20 volts, which in this case puts about 1 volt on each of the capacitors that would be supplying, I guess, the plus and minus 12 volts. And there's about 1 volt on the one that would be supplying about 5. And let it sit for probably 30 minutes. Come and check it with the thermal camera. Make sure nothing's getting warm. Make sure those capacitors are staying nice and cool. Kind of visually inspect them. And every 30 minutes or so I'll bump it up 10 or 20 volts. I'm not really in a hurry, so this is kind of all I'm doing with this today. So I'm just going to bring it up real nice and slow, monitor everything, and make sure it looks good. So I just bumped it up to about 40 volts AC on the input, and I'm pulling about 120 milliamps, so it looks like the fan kicked on and the relay started buzzing. If I cut the power switch on, but we got the relay bypassed, so that's all good. Nothing's getting warm yet. Everything's staying ice cold, so that's good. And yeah, keep running. The more I look at this, it looks like a liquid that dried up. It almost looks like there was a capacitor explosion in here at some point. I don't think it was any of these. They still have the little blast caps on them. And I was looking at the boards. There's a lot of tantalums on them. But this is the only one I see that kind of has a part replaced, and that replaced the 7805 linear regulator, and it is kind of in the right place, but I can't imagine a 7805 did that. I mean, that looks like, it definitely looks like a capacitor kind of explosion. But it's all up in there. It's all right here. It's on these cables right here, and it's all over this cable, which I guess was laying over the top. So yeah, like I say, I can't imagine a 7805 did that, but it looks like that might have been a capacitor explosion. Maybe a card was not sent with it that caused that. I'm not sure. I was thinking it was just like a coffee stain, but I don't think so anymore. I think there was something happened in here. Alright, so I'm up around 80 volts AC on the input now. You can see the current says 26, 27, or 260, 270 milliamps. If I cut on the switch, the relay cuts on now. And I would think the current would go to 0, but it doesn't. So I'm wondering if the relay is bad, or maybe I'm just not thinking about this right. But it kind of seems like maybe one of the it's a dual contactor relay. Like maybe one of the contactors is working and the other one isn't. I took the clippers off earlier. I didn't really realize this yet, but I think when I cut it on, the LEDs came on the board, suggesting that the transformer was getting power. But I don't think the fan cut on. You know, when I put the jumpers back on, the fan came on. So I'm kind of thinking that the contactor that controls the fan might be bad. Or like I said, I might just be thinking about this wrong. But once we get everything up, I'll take the jumpers off and we'll see what happens. So we're pretty much at the voltage now. This thing's been running for a while. Nothing's getting hot at all, so everything looks good. We're pulling about 400 milliamps on the input. So yeah, I don't know what exploded there. Still trying to figure that out. But you can see we have our LED indicators. One says 8 volts, one says plus 16, and one says minus 16. And still, if we cut the switch on, the current goes down to 220 milliamps. So it's approximately half. So let's power it down and pull the jumpers off and see if the fan runs. Okay, so power's on. We'll cut the power switch on the front on. I don't know if you can see has a light on it. So let's see. Relays clicked a little bit, but the light came on the front. Our lights are on the board, and our fan came on. Let's try it again. Let the voltages bleed down. Wait for the LEDs to cut off. Yes, everything seems to be working fine. I'm not sure why the current was dropping halfway whenever we did the switch. Must just not be thinking about that right. But yeah, everything's good. So I think we're good to go on to looking at the boards. So I got all the boards laid out here on my messy drafting table. So let's take a look. This stack are the ones that are labeled with the ISC symbol, which was the International Systems Corporation, I believe. And so these would have been the ones that probably came with it. And these would have probably been add-ons. But so it's going to be the main board, the processor board. So it's got a Z80 on it. It's got a ROM. I'd like to dump this, but this is an early ROM. It's a, let me see. It's a C2708. And that I cannot rip the data off of that with my ROM reader, and that's because it requires, I think, plus 12 and minus 5 volts. Pretty soon after this they went to where they only required 5 volts, and that's what most of them are. But I've read on forums that I can just apply those voltages to this and then stick it in the ROM reader and it'll read it fine. But yeah, so that's It just says right there, International Systems Corp. So there's that. I imagine it has some kind of a monitor program on it or something. I don't know, it'd be interesting to see. So this next one, that's just RAM. I think it's probably 16K. I think it says it on there somewhere. Yeah, 16K memory board. So that's the memory board. This board has 4 of these ICs on them, which say 1N S825 or SB25. I think it's S825. So those are serial chips for RS-232 UART or something. So this is a serial board. It's got 4 of them and it's got 4 ports on top. This port right here was connected to the shielded cable that went out the back. So I'm guessing that is the terminal. And none of the other ones are connected to anything. This is another one of those. It's basically the same thing, but it's a different design. And same thing up here. It's got these 4 ports. These are keyed. They have 1 pin cut off, and this one has a different pin cut off than the other one. But still, I believe this would just be 4 serial ports. This board, it's not labeled, but it has this 34 pin IDC, which went to that ribbon cable sticking out the back. So maybe it's a floppy drive controller. So that'd be neat. And these are the other boards that were in the computer. So there's 3 of these. They're made by Solid State Music. You can find information on these online. It's a 16K RAM. So there's 3 of those, so it had 64K in it. And then this last one, let's see. It says Processor Technology Corporation, 1977. And this is a composite output, I'm guessing. Well, it is. I looked this one up too. This one is available online. There's information on it. So this one can hook directly to a monitor. So I'm guessing that was an add-on. I think it was probably used for a terminal originally. Unless that output on the back is just a keyboard input. So yeah, but there's all the boards. They have a lot of tantalums on them. Pretty much all of them have some, or at least the ones that are branded with the machine. And there's a big one right there. So tantalums, they can be reliable, but they can also randomly explode when they're old. So we'll stick it on there and might get a bang. They can be pretty loud sometimes. But yeah, that's it. I think what we'll do is we'll just stick in these 3. So that'll be our serial card that went to the serial port on the back, our RAM, and our CPU board. And hopefully that'll give us something on the RS-232 output and give us an idea of what we're working with. Okay, so I got those 3 boards installed. I got it hooked to the Variac just so I have a convenient on-off switch over here. But let's see, I'll cut the power switch on the front, and let's see if we get any tantalum capacitors exploding. Seems to be happy so far. Alright, but that's first power up. We'll have to figure out how to connect something to that serial port. I'll have to figure out what all the pins are. So I'll do that and then we'll hook it to the computer. So I started kind of reverse engineering this serial card, and I stopped when I realized that it's only used as an input. So all the TX pins from these serial chips aren't going anywhere, which means this was probably just a keyboard input. So this cable going out the back, the round connector on the back, was just a proprietary keyboard connector, which means that I guess this was always intended to use this video card. This video card's made by Processor Technologies, which made like the SAW-20, the popular computer, and some other things. Made a lot of cards for these types S100 bus computers. But I'm gonna stick this in there. Probably just stick all the cards in, do a smoke test, and if there's no smoke, I'll hook a monitor to it and see if anything comes up. It'd be really neat if this has like CPM on the ROM. It's a 2K ROM, I think. I mean an 8K ROM. So I don't know if it would have CPM on it or not. There was a floppy drive controller, and I don't have a CPM floppy drive or anything like that, but I guess we'll have to figure that out if it doesn't. But yeah, I'll plug all this stuff up, I'll get a monitor in here, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so all the cards are installed. I think they're all the right way. So we'll do a quick smoke test. Hopefully we won't have any exploding tantalum capacitors. Alright, nothing crazy there. Let me go get a monitor. So the output of this computer has a BNC connector. So I made this to convert it to RCA. It's my little Magnavox monitor. I bought this a while back and it used it a few times. It works good. So hopefully all this stuff is compatible. And hopefully we get something on the screen. We've got nothing. Let's see if the lights are on. We've got all our voltage lights on. Alright, well I guess I'll try to figure something out. Look at it again. So I got the oscilloscope hooked to the video output, and there is stuff happening. Not really sure what I'm looking at. I might need to get my big scope out here, take a little better look at it. I think the screen will be doing something. Maybe I should adjust the knobs on the back and see if last time I used this I was trying to sync it to something that wasn't normal, so maybe I've got stuff just really far out of whack. Well, I can see some text. I don't know what any of these knobs do. It says memory error. But we're getting close. So it looks like vertical hold. Shit, I don't know. It's very wonky. This pot over here seems to be dirty. It looks like just vertical height. That doesn't seem to do anything. Man, they're just so dirty. Well, we might need to do a repair video on this monitor. So I forgot I had this little Kobe monitor. I bought this because I saw a Westlife video, and I think he mostly did a video on it because it's funny looking, because it has a really small screen and a big bezel around it. And he took it apart and realized that it was obviously designed for a larger screen. But the reason I got it is because he found, I think he read this in the manual, and he proved it by trying it out. This monitor can handle a lot of different modes. So a lot of times monitors are kind of set to where they can handle a handful of modes, and this one, apparently the software is just written where whatever comes in, it tries to make it work. In this case it shouldn't matter, and I don't know if that would even count for VGA. This should just be standard, like NTSC. But now I've never cut this monitor on, but let's cut it on and see if it works. It's a good start. How do I select? Not like that. Okay. It was buzzing for some reason, but it's not looking good. I'm plugged into video. Okay, I just jiggled the connector on the back and it's doing something. So we're not syncing, and I don't think this monitor has any adjustments for that on it. But there are two pots on the board. One says vert and one says HARS. So let's see if they allow us to sync. Looks like it gets closer. So that's rolling over pretty quick. There we go. Vertical, horizontal. There we go. International Systems Corporation, Video 1, Diagnostic LD in process. It says part number 20-00003-014 and drive 1 error 0. Alright, so it is looking for a drive and a boot disk, and we don't have a keyboard, so this is just stuck in the BIOS. Looks like that rebooted. Yeah, looks like both of these ways just kind of reboot, but this other switch over here that has two positions, it's like either one's kind of rebooting. But that's awesome. Have a custom BIOS, but we need a drive. Well, I have a drive. I don't know if I have cables and stuff. Let me piece some stuff together, and I've never cut the drive on, so I don't even know if it works. But it looks like all this appears to kind of be working, so that's cool. Let me see if I can figure the drive situation out. comes up right away now. I wonder if the old screen would work fine now. We'll have to try that. Maybe it looks like it wasn't vertical sync and horizontal sync, it was more position. Maybe the position was so far off the screen the other screen couldn't lock onto it right. But anyways, I have this drive. I'd assume it's a 5 1/4 floppy drive based off the 34 pin connector. But I don't have a cable for it. And this has edge card cable on it. I do have like a 34 IDC to 34 IDC, but that's not going to work here. So yeah, I think I could make something, or I could take apart one of my other machines, but I think I'm just going to order the right cable. And I don't even know if this drive works, but I've got some other drives, and hopefully we can get something working. I'm hoping it gets past this part if it detects a drive, and then maybe just gets to a, unable to boot screen, or maybe even boots into something, or goes into something to let us kind of know what's on the system. But I'm gonna go ahead and end this one here. It's probably pretty long already, and just really want to show the machine, and it's cool. It looks like it's working. I mean, we got diagnostic screen working. It may not be far enough, but it's not saying there's a major memory area or anything. I think a lot of that would have to work just to get video. So we still have to make a keyboard of some sort. I'm hoping we can just plug the computer RS-232 into this and it'll accept the keyboard commands. I got to finish reverse engineering that board, and we'll have to come up with a drive for it. But anyway, super excited. This is awesome. Made some progress. Machine's working. It didn't blow up. No smoking, no blowing up. Tantalum capacitors. Fans working. The nasty stuff on the back, I cleaned a lot of it off. It wipes right off, so it's going to clean up real nice. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and look forward to another video on this in the future.